Okay. Breathing in, breathing out. Okay, between the eyebrows. All these thoughts in my mind. Next to the eyes, any tension in my body. Under the eyes, I now release. Under the nose, releasing any tension. And you can repeat, releasing any tension. Under the mouth, releasing any stress. Clavicle, I am ready to open. On the head, allowing myself to settle. Between the eyebrows, releasing any tension. Next to the eyes, releasing any remaining tension. Under the eyes, as I offer myself to this moment. Under the nose, maybe Tom and Irene. Under the mouth, can create a moment. Clavicle, right here, right now. On the head, that can nurture me and that can nurture my heart. Perhaps it can inspire, next to the eyes, perhaps it can inspire, under the eyes, my path and this long journey of life. Under the nose, there isn't a person on this earth. Under the mouth, who hasn't been hurt or confused. Clavicle, or disappointed. On the head, I choose to honor my story. Between the eyebrows, I choose to honor my path. Next to the eyes, I choose to honor my truth. Under the eyes, and my courage. Under the nose, releasing any remaining tension. Under the mouth, I'm ready to give myself to this moment. Clavicle, ready to receive. On the head, ready to ground and ready to heal. Okay. Now receive a deep breath in and breathe out. Okay. Okay, so that was just a little grounding exercise for everyone. And I will now pass the word to Tom.
Thank you, Irene. That was wonderful and very, very appropriate to the moment. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I want to start by saying that we must all recognize at the very start that we are all beautiful, loving beings, divinely created, divinely connected, divinely inspired, in a constant state of communication, never separated. The thought of separation from our source is untrue. It's an illusion. And so at any moment, what we are facing is the choice between looking within and looking for that separation, looking for that connection, or looking without and experiencing separation. The question for us today is, why do relationships struggle and fail? Relationships of love, people who truly love each other, why did we struggle so much in relationship between two people who truly love each other? And um, what I want to say is that very few of us enter relationship realizing that we carry an enormous amount of pain. It's like we're having this big black bag of pain slung over our shoulders, and it's carrying this past that is just loaded with pain and trauma and experiences that have caused us enormous suffering, and also many, many false beliefs about ourselves, about life, and about the future, about the present, about what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. And that contrasts dramatically with our more organic nature, but it is what we live with. And what that big black bag does is whenever we're under stress, that bag opens and out come these phantoms, these fragments of consciousness that can take possession of us. And they really do take possession of you. And if you're willing to reflect or examine yourself and become more self-aware, you'll realize that so many times that you're under stress, you default to a set of patterns that are um, driven by fear and anger and by terrible pain. And they're driven by memories, whether conscious in that moment or unconscious, that cause us all terrible uh, suffering in the moment. And they tend to amplify conflict. In other words, let's say the source of stress is a conflict with someone you love or someone you deeply care for, or a colleague or a situation. Your reaction isn't exclusively from with the person that you're dealing with. Your The reaction is to a great extent pain from the past. And so, and it tends to amplify and also make us more afraid and more think the stakes are even higher in this moment than they really are. We have fear-driven patterns, and those patterns are deeply ingrained. That we have stress reactions, and those stress reactions are deeply ingrained. They're neural patterns, they're brain chemistry that runs according to cues that are programs, basically. There are neural patterns in the brain that basically connect old experiences, painful experiences with the present moment. That creates a physiological response so that there's hormonal reactions, there's respiration changes, heart rate, the body is taken over. So that when you're in a stressful moment, your entire body, mind, nervous system, and energy body are all thrown into a very difficult status so that your reaction is deeply ingrained, deeply physiological, but also it's a habit. And that's what we must understand. It's a habit that we default to. We react habitually so that we're not really seeing the present with all that much accuracy. In fact, what we're really seeing is a kaleidoscope of images and physiological responses that are throwing us into a crisis biologically, psychologically, energetically. And that crisis is bigger than or makes it difficult to perceive the current moment and perceive the other person with whom we're interacting. We have to understand that the great beauty that we have, is opposed by something. It is opposed by a part of us that seeks to derail love. Seeks to destroy love. It seeks to destroy a relationship. That exists in every one of us. We are not just these great, beautiful beings of love. We are also highly self-destructive. And if truth be told, we are destructive of others. We hurt others. We are hurt badly and we hurt others. And we're capable of terrible things, as everyone has any reflection on the state of the human race at the current moment knows. And so we have to ask ourselves, is it others that are doing this, people in positions of great power, or is it me that's doing it? And you're better off asking yourself the question or answering that question. It's me. It's me that's doing it. I'm the one that's doing it. I'm the one that's doing it in my immediate circle, but I contribute to the larger environment, to the world at large. And so we have to think, okay, a duality of this great beauty that exists within us, capable of tremendous art, tremendous insight, great invention, enormous creativity, great love. And that part of you remembers who you are, remembers your source, remembers all that you are, remembers all that you've ever been, knows where your home is, your true home. It knows things about you that your personal circle of consciousness, on one hand, can't remember, but under the influence of this self-destructive part of us, that self-destructive part of you wants to keep that circle of consciousness very limited so that you don't expand your consciousness. You don't awaken to something larger. You don't allow the inner you to speak to you and what that inner you is joined with. So the inner you, the inner beautiful being inside of you, this capable of great power and great effectiveness, and has remembered where you come from and where you're going and what you're about and who you are, and remembers its connection to the divine, to God, that you are still and always have been joined as an extension of God. Remembers all that, and there's this other oppositional part of us that wants to keep us remembering that, wants to keep us small in consciousness, wants to keep us afraid, wants to keep us angry, wants to keep us in opposition to each other. We use the word ego to describe that part. Unfortunately, that word has fallen into a kind of vernacular in which we think we understand it. And in a way, we've turned it into a euphemism. The word has softened. The word has come to be, well, I was being a bit egotistical in that moment, or my ego was out of control, or that was an ego moment, or whatever it is whatever language you use to soften it. But the truth is that the ego and its downstream partners, of which there are many, and its downstream effects, it's the derivatives of the ego, the fear and all the derivatives of the degrees of fear, stress, nervous tension, terror, and all the anger that flows from it, anger, annoyance, irritability, rage, hatred, all of that flows from the ego. And it's all meant to keep you from discovering who you are and for keeping love from succeeding in your life. It's opposed to love. And so when we realize that that's what's doing it, that's what's there, we can say, this is why relationships don't work, or my relationship isn't working, or my relationship is going through a difficult moment because my ego, whether subtly or grotesquely, openly, in a big way, is controlling the moments and making me choose for the lesser form of consciousness within myself. I'm going to give you a process today to defeat that control the ego has over us, especially in moments of stress. But the first thing we have to realize is that when you come into a relationship, whether you're, you know, a committed relationship, whether you or you marry, whatever it is, when you're in a committed relationship, Whether you're conscious of it or not, you make three promises to each other. Three promises, and those three promises count. We are held accountable to promises that we may not even be aware that we're making. But those three promises are very, very real. And the promises you make to someone you are in relationship with, intimate partnership with, is the first one is, I will love you. I will grow you with my love. I promise to grow you with my love. The second one is, I will become the best version of myself. And the third is that together, our love will lead us to our origin, our source. It will lead us on a path of reunion with Spirit, with God. Those three promises, that is the reason for our relationship, to become ourselves. My love intends to grow you. I'm going to grow you with my love. That means every opportunity I have to see the beauty and the good, and which means every single day, I'm going to see the beauty and the good in you. And I'm going to speak to that. If you ever have anybody talk to you in such a way that they're talking to you about the weather, or they're talking to you about whatever issue you may be facing, and they're talking to you in such a way that they believe in you and all that is beautiful and good in you, you already feel better about the situation. You already have reserves of energy flowing into your being. You're doing what God does because God doesn't see the small and the weak parts of us. Yes, of course, the divine beings that between us and the ultimate reality support us in that process, but they're basically doing the same thing. They want to continually remind us of our larger capabilities, our larger reality. If you're doing that, you're participating with a great, great power, the infinite power that is present in any moment. You're awakening another person to that reality. I see the beauty and the good. I see what is possible here. I believe in you. I believe in you. Even if those words are implicit, I believe in you. It means your partner is with you, come what may, and we're gonna realize what is possible in this situation. In the process of doing that, loving a person in that way, identifying what is beautiful and good in that person, I become my best self. That's how I become my best self. It's like if I forgive someone, I am forgiven because forgiveness exists within me. It exists as a condition, as an energetic state. Forgiveness is an energetic state. It is numinous. It is divine in nature. And so I hold forgiveness for this person. And guess what? I am experiencing forgiveness, just as if I hold anger for someone. I'm angry at so and so. I'm so angry at that person. The person may not know it, whatever, but I'm poisoning myself. I hate so and so. It's so common today. I hate so and so. It's the ego has given us license to hate. If you just say, I hate so and so, whoever it is, whatever it's a politician or whatever it is, just drop the word, the name, and just say, I hate, and have a look at that. Because you're poisoning yourself. Just as when you fill yourself up with love for another, you are enriching yourself. I forgive so and so. I'm forgiving myself. So when you see somebody in the way that you see what is beautiful and good within them, you are enriching yourself. You become part of a greater flow that enriches your life and elevates your life. And you are doing all three promises because you become your better self. I'm growing you with my love. I'm becoming my better self, and I'm aligning myself with the divine simultaneously. If we allow ourselves to do that, if we let those three promises win in our lives, in our relationships, we will remember who we are and we will go back having fulfilled our lives. We are up against a really, really tough opponent. We must understand that. We cannot just fulfill those three promises as if it's a walk in the park. We are burdened with so much pain, so much frustration, so much anger, so much disappointment. Is that all this pain we're carrying is a very real thing to us, and it emerges and takes possession of us. And I don't use that word possession lightly. If you were to observe yourself under stress or in a difficult moment, or when you feel you've been treated unfairly, or you've been injured by someone, you will see that what takes place physiologically, energetically, behaviorally, that is to say, patterns of behavior, you'll see is that these are habits, these are programs that would run us, and they're very, very powerful. And if we don't realize that this is a very powerful experience in me, this is something that causes me tremendous pain, and my mind, I become temporarily insane in this moment because this is what happens in relationship. People start to act out from old pain. I oftentimes say 70 to 80% of the anger and the fear we feel is not from the moment we're in. It's from the past. And what we want to do is be able to understand that because we're not seeing things clearly. In painful moments of stress, if we were to start to say, I want to truly understand my stress reaction. I want to truly understand my defensive reactions. And we started to observe it. What you would see is whenever I'm in that state, I make mistakes. I make mistakes. This is so crucial. I hurt somebody else, I hurt myself, or I say things that I don't really mean. How many times have we been in an argument where we said things that were terrible that we never really meant? We wish we had never said that. We wish it so much that we have to wonder, was that me or was that something else? If you were to understand, if we were all together to understand that the nature of the ego, we would say that, in fact, ego is a fragment in me. It's my ego per se, right? It's my ego. But it's the ego as a centralized force opposing God. The creation story that was given down to us, and virtually every creation story, always included an opponent to God, an opponent to the light. Darkness opposes the light. And the ego is the purveyor of that darkness. And it wants you to say things that you never meant, wants you to say things that are terrible. It wants you to assault the other person. It wants you to lose it. And so, what I'm asking us to hold as a possibility is there's a force that is beyond us and greater than us, that there is an original ego as an archetypal consciousness that is running all of us at the moment. It used to be called by more traditional words, Lucifer, Satan, darkness, whatever words you want to use. But it's in us and it opposes love, and it's very good at it. We can hold an infinite number of present day examples as proof that is very good at destroying love or suppressing love or restricting love and causing terrible damage to each of us. When we start to see that the ego is this larger archetypal source with its own powers and its own army of forces, and it can influence us. It influences us and at times controls us. And we start to think also, wow, I'm having a great day. I feel I'm aware of the beauty today. I'm aware of the sun. I'm aware of the, the vegetation of trees, the flowers, the beauty of the forest. I see the beauty in others. I see the good and the beauty in others. When you realize that these are two very, very distinct forms of consciousness, then you start to realize I have got these two very powerful energies inside me, and they seem to take hold of me. And I wonder if it's random or if I have any choice in it. And the fact is, you do have a choice. You do have a choice, and you must have a choice. Now, here's the thing. We come into a relationship because we need each other, because we love each other. And you don't come into a relationship by accident. No one comes into your life accidentally. That includes the person you check out, who checks you out at the grocery store, the person you meet on the street and you have a talk with. No one is there accidentally. It's all an enormous tapestry orchestrated by a consciousness beyond something beyond consciousness that is arranging all this for our good, for our remembrance, for the beauty, to awaken to the beauty that each of us carries, to awaken to the true nature of us. And so when you see that this is happening on a more peripheral level, that is to say, in the areas of your life where you would call a meeting with at the grocery store fairly insignificant. It's not, but let's just say for the sake of what is normally perceived as insignificant, it's an insignificant encounter. Even that was important. Even that moment was traditionally we said the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit was present in that moment, arranging that moment, bringing us together. If that is true, then think about how important your partner is. That partner you have in your life was sent to you by God. That's not a random person. That's a person that's been made available to you because the two of you can achieve something together that is of the greatest importance there is in life. The ego knows this, and that's where it has to concentrate its focus and its attention. It has to derail that relationship, that above all other relationships, that horizontal relationship, your relationship with another, and it also has to, by derailing your relationship of love with another, it knows that it will be able to derail your vertical relationship with your source, the vertical axis, this spiritual channel. It can derail one and then it will have both. It can cause you to oppose your source, which is what it wants. It wants the light to be defeated. The light is love. It wants love to be defeated. And it is most concentrated in your partnership. And so when you enter into a relationship with someone very, very special to you, very unique, God-given, it has to attack that person. It has to create the conditions where that relationship has to be derailed because it is his greatest threat, because love is the greatest threat to the ego. Because the more you love in your work, in your relationship, in your family, in the partners in your friends, your business partners, whatever it is, the people, your co-workers, the more you love, the more you focus that love on anything in front of you, anything within you, because it's all within you. Everything is within you. Everything is a subjective experience. Everything takes place within us. The more you become whole, the more I give love to anyone, the more I'm enriched by love. I am integrating, I am healing. Every single day that you give love to someone, every single day that you give a smile or an encouraging word or kindness or any of the derivatives of love, anytime you show courage or honesty, compassion, you are changing your internal world. You're changing the frequencies of your life and you're regaining your connection even more, your conscious connection with your source. The ego knows this and it wants to bring you into these darker frequencies, this three-dimensional world where everything's in conflict. And so it wants that. And it wants that especially in your relationship. And so what conflict is the moment where two people are facing the limitations of what they know or believe about a particular thing, their perceptions of a particular event or a particular situation. It's a argument around money and spending money. It's an argument around sex or making love. It's an argument around how to deal with the kids, or it's an argument around major purchases, or whatever it is, it's an argument around time, how to use time, whatever it is, it's a drama, it's an arena where love and the ego are present, and there will be a choice of made one or the other will win. Now, the ego has a very special an array of partners. They are powerful partners in this moment. And one of them I called a defender, meaning that if you've ever seen anyone argue or had an argument yourself and you're going to with your partner and you come together and you're arguing about, whatever it is you're arguing about, whatever the subject is, if you witness it and you observe it, what you'll see is that through a certain portion, especially in the early stages, I'm going to defend my truth. I'm supposed to defend my truth. This is what I've been taught to do. I'm going to defend my point of view. My partner has a different point of view, but I'm going to defend my point of view. Now, this is a moment where you're going to be gradually dragged into the ego's clutches. You're going to be seduced into thinking that gradually you'll be made to think, I have to defend my point of view because although you will not be necessarily conscious of this, the ego will tie it to the status of your identity. I'm the smarter one in the relationship. I know better than these things. I'm the person who's better with money, or I'm the person better with time, or whatever it is. I'm the person who knows things. I have to be right. I have to assert myself. I have to assert that my truth, and I'm not going to let my truth be trampled on. I've been trained to think that if I let my truth be trampled on, I'll be powerless. And pretty soon, what the ego does is it connects whatever you're fighting about with your identity so that your identity becomes what is truly at stake, and then it ties your identity to survival. So what's happening is you get a bigger response to the threat that your partner is making to your specific point of view, which now is tied to your identity and all the identity issues. I'm the smart one. I know this. I've studied this. I've got expertise in this area. Blah blah blah. All that stuff. And then further along, you find yourself arguing vehemently for your point of view, and invariably, what happens is the ego always brings in the past because the upset that you're experiencing at this point is really more about the past than it is about the present. But the past is full of memories. It's full of pain and full of memories. It's full of patterns. And so what you do is you'll start to talk about, you're the reason I'm unhappy, or you did this 5 years ago, or you did this yesterday, you did this 10 years ago, or whatever it is. You'll bring up the past and you'll start engaging the past to prove the other one is wrong and in some way or another inferior. And he or she engages in this kind of patterns, and the whole thing starts to get worse and worse. Eventually, both of you become exhausted. Very little is resolved. You have to separate. It gets swept under the rug, or it doesn't, and it becomes the basis for future discussions leading into anger and so forth. And then so it goes. It becomes a self-supporting cycle. I'm asking you to understand that in the process of doing that, what was lost was the possibility that your point of view, your perspective, your perception was limited, and what was being offered was an enlarged perspective. You could open, and that openness gives you not just an openness to the other, it changes your biochemistry, it changes your stress response. Your capacity to listen and receive the other changes everything, both in you and in the other. It also awakens you to the deep state of connectedness that exists within you as a connection to spirit. It awakens you in many cases unconsciously, to the presence of something larger within you and all around you that is now wanting to inform your entire being with love. And so I do these drawings of these situations, and invariably, when two people are fighting and they go through that cycle, if one of them says, if they'll go through the ego cycle and they're now at odds and they're bringing up the past and they're trying to defeat the other person's truth. If one of them at that moment says, "Okay, let's stop. Let's wait a minute. You tell me what you feel, what you say. Just tell me. I'm just going to hold the space." And if that person who says that stops and lets the other speak, what happens is, and if he or she holds the space in an empty area, in other words, he holds it without, "I'm going to say this as soon as she takes a breath or he takes a breath," but instead you empty your mind and you just hold the space in that moment, and the other one starts speaking within a few, just a couple of few moments, that person, everything will change biologically, everything will change psychologically, everything will change spiritually. You open, you let the other speak. I'm not going to interrupt you. You just tell me what your truth is. Tell me your perspective. And when that person's done, then you share this, and you let the other hold the space for you, and you share it. What you're doing is you're climbing a triangle. As each of you listens to the other, you're rising in frequencies. You're rising in consciousness. You're rising in what is being informed, what is informing you. You are no longer being informed by the ego. What you're being informed by is a higher consciousness. You are more connected just by listening. And you're helping your partner to be connected just by you listening and letting that partner speak the truth. Now, this takes tremendous courage because your partner knows you. And your partner knows you very, very well, and he or she can be able to say all kinds of things about you that are true, and it's going to be painful. It's going to be able to say, "You did this, you did that, or you have this pattern, that pattern." But the minute you say, "I understand," or "Yes, it's true," or whatever, or you hold the space and you just acknowledge that it's true, some degree, even if it's just 1% true, the minute you acknowledge that something being said is true, it takes the ego out of the picture. It deflates the ego, and it now becomes a very different kind of discussion. You have conquered the ego, the person who says, "I'm going to let you speak. I'm going to hear you." And if you observe that, you'll see that the tone changes dramatically. The tone, what was once a raging argument with lots of volume, is now calmer and becoming calmer. And pretty soon, everything along those lines begins to change. And what is being reestablished? You're awakening to the reality that you love each other, which the ego wants you to be in an argument where you forget that entirely. You love each other. And you also awaken to the possibility, it isn't just a possibility, but you awaken to the reality that not only do I love you, but I am committed to being my better self. I'm committing to being a stronger, better version of who I am. And I'm also wanting to expand my own consciousness. I want to understand a deeper truth. I want to understand a bigger truth. I'm not just getting that from my partner, I'm getting that internally because I'm being fed. If I'm paying attention, I'm aware that something inside of me is speaking to me or telling me things that I'm connecting dots that I would never have connected prior to the conflict taking place. And so,
Tom, can I jump in for a
yes,
question?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, because I think it's rather foundational, and I've been wondering that since the beginning of the talk.
Yes,
If
yes.
we If we take the perfection of life as like as the basis for our discussion and our understanding, and if we think about the fact that, for instance, in our body we have 300 trillion cells that continuously collaborate without us contributing in any way, and the cell in the ear knows what to do just as much as the cell in, I don't know what, in the lower toe knows what to do. So if we start from the principle that life is all about perfection and everything seems to work, then what is the role of the ego? Because surely it must have some kind of benefit, like as destructive as it is and as dark as it is, it must have some beneficial role in the greater scheme of things. And from what you said, or the way I've understood it, is that then it becomes our journey and our calling and our path to bring ever greater awareness to the darkness and destruction that the ego does bring to us in order to transcend it. In other words, we're then confronted by a choice to which we have to bring our awareness. And I think that's our inner, that's the path of growth towards the light. Would you say that's somehow something like that? What I'm trying to say is that the ego seems to be absolute darkness, but if everything is perfect in the greater life, then that must be part of that perfection, if you see what I mean.
Yes, and it's a great question. Thank you. Thank you for interrupting me, and thank you for giving me a chance to say it. I want you to consider that this is challenging, but I just ask you to consider it. You don't have to accept it. But I want you to consider that God never created this world that we live in, that this world is run and created today is being created by the ego to a greater extent than it is anything by light. And what if you could say originally we chose to have separation from God? It wasn't possible for us to separate truly, but we chose to have an experience that was separate from the source. That is to say that it's still impossible to separate from the source because the source is life itself. And so we could not have life without being connected to the source, but we could have the experience of being separated. And we wanted that. We chose separation. And we chose to be in a world where separation was the dominant force. And we discovered that the world of separation brings tremendous sorrow, pain, suffering. We come to this dimension to remember the nature of the source, to remember the nature of love, to remember everything that was true and is true, that is life, and that everything else is an illusion, but it's a terrible and painful illusion. The ego runs the world of illusion, the source runs the world of reality. If we chose to create a world through the ego, create lives through the ego that was based on separation from the source. We came here to remember, to have an experience where that separation is overcome by me, by you, by all of us individually. I chose to have an individual experience. I chose to be separate. I chose this a long, long time ago because of time, but in essence, there is no time. But our experience of time is that many lifetimes ago, I chose this. And I chose to live in this illusory world where I could experience separation and have the chance to make choices between separation and reunion with my source. And the ego gives us that choice. It will do everything possible to keep us remembering that we have a choice. It will do everything possible to keep us from awakening to who we are. Awakening only happens because we have a choice, because we're making a different choice. The ego wants you to make a choice for the darkness, for separation, to make you think you can hurt another person and not hurt yourself. Make you think you can do all kinds of things in life and not cause that pain to the greater harm, to the greater world. So the choice, the presence of the ego was there from the very beginning to create separation, to create an experience of separation, to give us that experience because we chose to have it. And it continues to be available to us so that we continue to have it until the time we start to want to wake up to our true nature. If we allow the ego to pervade the world and be the dominant force as it is today, everyone suffers. If we were to change ourselves as individuals and start to bring that journey, be awakened to the journey back, to start to say, this is not what the life I want. I want to live by a very different set of standards, ethics, energy, consciousness. I want to live by something else. I want to live by reunion with my source. We start to create a very, very different world. We create a very different life. We create a different world. We create a different world for each other. But the choice for free will was given to us. I give you free will. You can make any choice you want. You can choose for the ego. You can choose for separation. You can choose for illusion. You can learn what that is about. You can continue to learn for that as long as you need to. You can continue to live in that world as long as you need to because you chose that originally. And I give you that choice, but I have never let go of you. And I'm always trying to bring you back. And I will awaken you through that suffering that the ego causes you by knowing that there's a different path, and that will bring the relief of suffering. And we want to wake up from that. And so the ego offers us the world of separation and suffering, while the light offers us the path back to reunion with it. Does that
Someone,
make any sense?
yeah, someone in the chat asked, so why did we choose separation in the first place?
Well, I don't recall personally. A little bit I do recall because right now, the whole question in the first place isn't in the distant past. It is in the distant past, okay, we say, but we choose separation right now. If we understood what awakening is, we're all terrified of it because the ego has defined us as special. The ego wants you to think of yourself as special and separate and having an experience that gives you some rewards and to be returned to the one, to be returned to God, to become one who journeys back, who awakens, is to be in reunion with all. And the I and the ego dissolve. And that from the standpoint of a being run by the ego and has an experience of that for so long is terrifying. What I do remember, what I do know is that right now, I oftentimes choose for separation. I can be aware of that. I can watch that. I can make a correction. But I know that I'm in the habit of making those choices. We're terrified right now of reunion. We are all so enamored to our ego-driven choices, our ego-driven identification with the body. We love the body. We take care of it. We want to beautify it. We want to make it special. We want to have pleasures through the body. We are very attached to it. And the choice for giving up the clothes and the body and the car and the status and the beautiful goals we have for our lives is very, very difficult. And the more we understand the order of the universe, we remember the words of Jesus who said, seek first the kingdom of heaven and all else will be given to you. And that's true. But we put it upside down. He put the universe right. He created order, the order that is true. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, meaning seek first reunion with God, and everything in this realm will be given to you. But what we do is we unconsciously, without being aware, we pursue our ego-centered goals, our status, our power, whatever it is you perceive to be something you need that's special for you, as top, as more important, and is driven a lot of times by fear. So I have to have this much money. I have to have this car. I have to have this and that and the next thing. I have to have this in order to function in this world. We give it priority. We do it unconsciously. We do it consciously. But we're trying to reverse that. And the minute we start the journey back, we understand that these little decisions are giant decisions. They're huge decisions. And the more we can make them, more we can work together to understand that these big decisions, for example, my country, we're divided by politics, Democrats and Republicans. And now it's, of course, I'm sure you all know, it's violent. It's all ego driven. But to identify with something like a political party is entirely an ego driven choice. And so, but people make that choice without a second thought, or to identify with your physical environment, to identify with all these things that make you special is an act that we've been trained to make by the ego that we're not aware of having done that because we're so rewarded by it. So we make the choice now. It doesn't matter that the word what it was done was originally. This is the original moment, the absolute now, right now. We can make a choice. We can make a different choice. I can turn in this moment to the Holy Spirit to say, what do I say next? Or how can I give as much love as I can to every single person on this screen today? Or I can worry about, I'm not making sense to these people, and I can go down one path or the other. Those paths, fear versus reunion, is always the choice. And it is, and as long as we're in a body, that will be the choice in front of us.
Tom,
Does that
thank
make
you.
sense?
Totally, totally. And if we now take it back really to like the relationship level, and we have the partner in front of us whom we love and we're in love with, and we try
Yeah.
to get it right and we mess it up and it goes wrong. Can you can you maybe re-engage with your magical formula?
Yes. Yes. Well, here's the thing. This is the beauty. Love always wins in the end. Love can always win, and you can't fail. Yes, if you continue to hurt each other, but eventually, even that, because only love will heal it. So let's just say that an argument, I'm I'm actually I'm actually how do I say this correctly? I'm actually a supporter of arguing, okay? Because arguments represent the limitations of our consciousness in that moment. And so if we can just say, okay, this is where I stop this fight or this argument, and I ask my wife to talk, or I ask my friend to talk, or ask a colleague to talk. I just let the person speak. This is where I stop it, and I flip the whole thing. And so the defender is defeated. The ego is defeated in that moment, and I just listen. But here's the thing, and I want to just say that it's possible that if you observe yourself, I hope that answers the question. Does it answer the question, Irene?
I think yes, but I have so many clients with whom I've spoken about the fact that they so very often want to engage the dialogue, but the partner blocks and doesn't want to talk, turns away, is not communicative, is grumpy, and doesn't engage. And I know this is like such a pain point for so many people. What do you do then?
Wonderful, wonderful. I think that that's a great question. It does take me a little bit off the line, but I need to address that. Okay, so let's say that many people in their defensive response just walk away. They shut down and walk away. Okay, we have to ask ourselves why. And many people are have had so many bad experiences with conflict, and they don't find that it helps at all, which is true. They've never gotten a chance to speak their truth. They don't have the experience of being able to say, in a conflict between two points of view, they can never say, the other person says, well, I welcome your point of view. How often have you heard that in your life? Right? It doesn't happen. And so many people shut down and just walk away and say, I'm not going to engage it because it's not profitable. But what's lost is I don't get a chance. If I'm the person in the argument with such a person, which in our early going, I was the one who spoke and I was more psychopathic or controlling, and Toby was the more rigid, and she would just, this is pointless. That's it. And so I know this terrain. You have to be willing to say to the other, I want to hear everything you have to say. And it's no longer a contest where I'm going to suppress you or give you a counter argument. I just want to know what you have to say. That's first. Okay, that's a rudimentary one. But you have to look at the atmosphere in which do I really hold the other as this amazing human being? Have I really encouraged my partner to know how wonderful and great they really are? Have I grown them? Because many people shut down because they feel that they can't find the words, they can't marshal an argument, they're going to be interrupted, they're going to be attacked, and also they have low self-esteem. And if you're in a relationship with someone who has low self-esteem and they can't find their truth, it's your job. You signed on for that. You signed on to say it's my job to help that person realize how essential his or her truth is to both of us. I need your point of view, and I'm not going to criticize you or cut you down, but you have to be willing in this relationship to participate as fully as you can because I need you. I need you because my consciousness will not expand. We will not have your point of view. We will not have all that you'll bring into the moment if you don't fully participate. And so the work is to, in a certain way, make the person realize that in the background of their being is a person still is a being still connected to the source and has a purpose for this life and has so much to give this life that without them the world is lost. It's true. Without all of us, it's lost. Our circle is doomed. Our whatever circle you exist within, without you, the circle is doomed. So a relationship is intended to bring you more into being, to bring the other more into being. That's what love is. I promise to grow you with my love, not with my criticism, but with my love. So I'm asking us to think, if my partner shuts down, I'm a big part of why my partner shuts down. Yes, it's true. My partner has a past that we're both trying to heal that allows my partner to feel this is productive if I speak. If I overcome my resistance to speaking, because now my defense, my ego tells me not to speak, but if I overcome my resistance to speaking, I will discover my power. I will discover things inside myself that I didn't know I had. And so I've got to do that. Being in relationship is your responsibility to speak your truth. That's what happens. And together we're trying to create the conditions where that truth flourishes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes complete sense. And I think it's going to speak to so many people in the audience here, that's just this understanding that we have to, how to say that we have to foster the conditions that encourage the other to speak and to ground and to feel safe and yeah, just to create a realm in which both truths can be shared and that we can then learn from. I think I just know so many of my clients are more in the talking role and then they suffer when the other walks off. And I think what then very often has happened in the past for them, I mean, is that there's just such frustration, there's such frustration that the other doesn't engage. And then with time, yeah, I guess people give up.
Yes.
Um,
And it's so easy to blame the one who's silent.
yeah.
Okay, we don't without thinking that it's the terrain of the relationship that is really the problem that we both contribute to. That is, it's the atmosphere that we create together that makes it possible for one to be silent because I speak too much, or I don't hold the space, or I don't see the greater being in my partner. So we that's our work. Okay. In relationship, I need you. I'm lost without you. I'm lost. My truth is limited And if my truth is limited in this life and it doesn't expand, I need you to expand that truth. But if that does not happen, I am lost because my journey is really back. And I need someone to help me expand that truth. And that your truth helps me do that. That's the commitment. So let's go back to our reaction and under stress, okay? Because that is a crucial part in this, okay? Because once you're in an argument, you're in the stress response, your neurons are and neural patterns, but your neurons are firing, your dopamine, epinephrine, uh, glutamate, they're all firing. So that what's happening is you're very aroused and under stress, and adrenaline is pumping and so forth. And so the question then becomes, how do we get a hold of ourselves? How do we get a hold of ourselves? And the first thing I would ask you to do is to practice doing nothing for a while and just observe. Observe what you do under stress all day long. Just practice being aware that I go into stress and this is what I do. I would ask you not to necessarily change anything. In fact, you want to understand it as best you can. Just practice watching yourself. As you practice awareness of yourself, you're actually developing a connection with the greater good, the greater and beautiful thing being inside yourself, the connected state. The more you practice awareness, you're connecting now to the deeper consciousness and the beautiful being that you are. And that being now, you're shifting the perspective to that because awareness is the further threshold that we go deeper and deeper into that state. But even the most superficial state of awareness now has a very different perspective on what I'm doing, even though I continue to do it. I'm acting out. I'm saying simultaneously, you are insane at this moment. What are you doing? At that level, that's a huge thing because now you've created a split between awareness, consciousness, the being that you really are, and this personal thing that's been trained, ego trained, that's carrying on the circus at the moment. But now you're watching it. The more you get to know what you do under stress, the more, and that immediate response that you have, that stress response, the more you see that, the more you get to understand that there's this incredible awareness that settles on you that says there's a little gap between stimulus and response. There's a little gap between me being triggered and my reaction. There's a little moment. I don't know the duration just yet. Maybe it's so small that I've never noticed it, but I can see now that there's a gap there. And there is a moment where I can sort of feel that I have a choice. I have a choice as to how I react. The choice of how you react is actually your freedom, your power, everything that's beautiful and good about you. But it's much more, I mean, in terms of just your freedom and power, that gap between stimulus and response, if you could begin to perceive it and arrest that moment, just arrest that moment and do nothing, just do nothing. Be in that gap and do nothing and just wait. You are in connection now with, to use the more traditional vernacular, the Holy Spirit. You're in connection with the divine. Even though it may feel like I'm churning inside, I'm suffering, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give my standard stress reaction to this. I'm not going to do that. I'll do anything but that, meaning I will just stop and do nothing. And doing nothing is an act, it's a heroic act. You pause, you let whatever is there pass, and what is in that gap, spirit is actually healing you in terms of the old pain that was driving your stress reaction, the stress reaction that you never really had a chance to look at and was running you, this program that was running it. Spirit now is a chance to uproot that and change it. And both Jesus and the Buddha said things that overlap over and over again. And in the Course of Miracles, Jesus says, you don't become awakened by adding anything to yourself or changing what you are fundamentally. You don't become awakened by changing yourself fundamentally. You become awakened by removing the obstacles to what you are organically. And that's what we're doing. We're gonna between stimulus and response, I'm gonna step into the gap and I'm gonna do nothing. And I'm gonna let spirit dissolve the gap between me and my connection with consciousness, with spirit, with life, with light. I'm gonna let because I don't know how to do it. In fact, I haven't got a clue to do it. All I know is at this point I can do that. I can do that. I can stop. I don't have to engage this person in this way. I don't have to do my normal circus act. I don't have to fly off the handle or do whatever I do, run into the next room. I don't have to do anything. I can just be with my inner life and do nothing. In that moment, you are making a connection to something far beyond your personal consciousness, far beyond your ego, and you're changing everything. And you're letting consciousness, you're letting the larger change that moment. You're also stopping the violence, the defender, the ego's defender. You're stopping the violence. You're also defeating the victim in you. Because the victim in you, which is another function of the ego, to make you feel like a victim, to make you feel like all of this is wrong, this is unfair, I gotta push ahead and set this right, I gotta make my case. The victim is driving that process. And the victim gives us license to do all kinds of things that we believe are morally justified, that the means justifies is justified by the end. The victim can create violence, become a perpetrator, which is what the victim does. It becomes a perpetrator. It can scream and act and just think you're going to get fairness out of all that. And you're not. You're not. You're not going to get anything you want that the victim, but the ego will get what it wants. It seduces you into thinking that being a victim, it gives you the high moral ground. And because you have the high moral ground, it justifies a lot of behavior that you wish you didn't engage in. And so you just do nothing. You don't have to be glib. You don't have to be quick. You don't have to you just do nothing. I don't know what to do. I don't know. You have to step into that. I don't know. That's the reality. That's what's true. You don't know. And if you're willing to do that and say, I don't know, you're going to call a halt to everything. Everything that would have happened downstream as a consequence of the ego, the defender, and the victim, everything that would have happened that would push the pain further deeper into yourself and to your partner is not going to happen. If at that point the next thing you say is, okay, I understand. Just tell me what you think. I'm listening. And then listen in the emptiness. Just be in the emptiness and listen. Or you say, can we have 5 minutes? Can we have 10 minutes? Can we have a half an hour and come back? Because I want to talk about this. Can we talk about it in half an hour or 15 minutes or 10, 5 minutes? Can I get a drink of water? Whatever. And I want to talk to you and I want to hear everything. You just talk. I want to hear it. If that becomes a practice, pretty soon the victim in both of us is eliminated and we or weakened or it has shorter endurance. And once it has shorter endurance, we get to what is the bigger experience. Now, I'm just going to go for a few more minutes out, and I'll stay for as long as we can to answer questions. I want to say that once you connect with the larger, once you've done that, you're no longer going deeper into darkness, no longer going deeper into 3 dimensions. You're no longer doing that, and you connect to something larger. What they do, what is back there in consciousness, is they're going to deal with the real problem. They're going to give you a solution, whatever the problem is, whether it's an issue with the both of you. You're trying to work something out, or it's a financial issue, it's a job issue, or whatever it is. They're going to give you the answer, and you're going to both get one or the other is going to get an illumination in the next short while. Could be immediately, could be a day later, 3 days later, usually within that time. But you'll get an idea. You'll get an idea. Here's what we should do. I just saw it. I think we should do this. And then that becomes the basis for the solution to the real problem that you're originally arguing about. I'm just going to say one more thing that I think couples need to learn. If we can do all that, it's amazing, and it works because I this was long before the internet that I discovered this, because I had to, because my own stress response was I was just completely very, very unhappy with how I reacted in stress. And so what I'm asking you to think is, okay, that alone will change everything in your life. And whether the partner is willing to do this with you, even if you do it for a little while, they'll do it with you after a little while because they'll realize how much you've changed, how much stronger you are, and how centered you are. Basically, you're dropping the ribbons to wanting to change the other. You drop the ribbons. This is what we do with each other. We put ribbons around each other, and I've got to pull you into my point of view. And that what I do is I drop the ribbons. I let you have your point of view. And the paradox is that you also drop the ribbons with me, and we both support each other in what we need. There's a lot to say about need, and I'm going to talk about this in our next conversation um, in May, because it has a lot to do with health and healing, and also with purpose. But in any case, let us say that you do that and your partner comes along and that you both start doing that. You realize that we're not going to take this into the dark depths of darkness. We're going to stop and we're going to listen to each other, and we're going to explore what we really feel deep inside from a higher consciousness. When you have a problem and you're in a relationship, you just have a problem, not with your partner, you just have a problem. If we could just practice sitting with each other while one holds the space and you look at your problem and just talk about your problem with the intention of getting connected with your problem and your challenge, and then finally getting to an important question, which very, very few people ask the question, but this is the question. The question is, what do I do next? In other words, you talk about your problem, you sort it out, you come to know it intimately, and then you ask the question of the higher, what do I do next? And let yourself receive that question, the answer to that question, and you will get that question. You'll be inspired, and it'll happen. A day later, 3 days later, whatever it is, be a short time. What do I do next? You'll be inspired. Oh, I'm going to do this. It will come into silence, which is another thing we should talk about. Silence isn't silence, but silence is for our ears and our inner world. Silence is the place where all this is mediated, where that information flows. But in any case, if you do that and your partner held the space, all they did was ask you a question occasionally just to get clarification or get you to clarify. And you do that for 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever, you both will be so much stronger and feel so much love for each other. And the person who spoke for that time will feel so grateful to the other. Just let me process this and get to the place of what is my responsibility and what do I have to do next? It will it will inspire you. It will inspire you, and your gratitude for the partner being present with love is an incredible gift to you. That is basically, just to summarize it and close this, for and open to questions. I want to say that we have to remember what we are up against in relationship. We have to understand that that thing we're up against wants to destroy your love. It will take possession of you. It is especially powerful when you're in stress and you're in fear and anger. That must be curtailed. You must find you must find your stress response. You must see what you do. You must see how you create projections in that anger, how you think you know the other, you define the other in terrible terms. You've got to see that that's got to stop. You've got to be able to awaken to what your stress response is there and find the gap. do nothing in the gap, do nothing, empty your mind, do nothing. If anything, if you can, meditate, pray, whatever it is, ask for help, but be present and empty, and the rest will come. And do what I'm asking you to do in terms of being able to talk about whatever you're suffering from. Let the victims in you speak until that warrior in you comes out and asks the question, what do I do next? And you'll get the answer. That's the idea for today.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thanks a lot, Tom. I just want to forward I want to forward a question because I know my clients, I know who's here, and so much has been said about relationship and being in relationship. But what about all the people who are single and really struggling to find someone, and who've been on dates and who've been disappointed and hurt and kind of have, like withdrawn a little bit and don't even go out into the dating scene these days because, for obvious, I don't want to say obvious reasons because it's complicated, because so much is online and so on and so forth. Do you have some encouraging words for that part of the population? And by the way, I've just dropped the link for everyone for the next two talks that will happen in May and in June, and you can find the link there if you want to register.
Yeah. What I failed to mention in the origin story is that not only do we want separation, but we we are, and this is challenging for all of us, including for me. So, and I'm not outside the boat, but we have to hold the possibility that we are projecting our lives. Like a projector inside of us, we are creating the circumstances. The more you think about that, the more you see it's true. Your ego, you're either creating from love or you're creating from ego. And ego wants separation, it's committed to separation. It wants everybody to be alone. It wants love to fail. So what I would say is this. If you're willing, think of yourself as this being of love who, through the day, as much as you can, leaves no encounter without some kindness, without some act of love, generosity, courage, without understanding that by giving a kind word or kindness or acting with courage or honesty with anyone else, you change yourself. Every time you are gentle in an interaction or loving or compassionate with another, you are changing yourself. And the fear, if there is fear, I'm not saying there is, but if there's fear in a relationship, and I think everyone has fear in a relationship, I think a relationship is terrifying on a lot of levels, and we have good reason to feel that because so many relationships are models for why we would be afraid, because the ego has managed to crush each other's truth and demonstrate all kinds of behaviors that are so abusive and violent. Those secret beliefs and the unconscious places where we cannot reach, they become changed by being part of a flow that is what is long held as the Holy Spirit working on you in places you can't work on yourself. You can know your little my I can know my little mind, my little Tom story, which causes me a lot of problems. Okay? That little Tom story, I have to know that's a problem for me. I want that little Tom story to dissolve, 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 get bigger, 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 so that what's really happening is I'm including more and more of who I really am. If I'm doing that for others, if I'm encouraging others to be themselves or just feel safe in this moment, which is what I want everyone to feel safe. And I also want people to know that on some level I'm appreciated, even if it's just the way I look or I if there's nothing else but just the energy that I'm holding this person in, if I'm doing that, I'm changing my story. I'm changing the unconscious places. And I'm thinking with the Holy Spirit. I'm thinking with Christ in me. I'm thinking with the higher in me. And if I'm thinking with the higher in me, they can get to places that my personal consciousness can't reach. That's what I want. I want to invite the Christ in me, the Holy Spirit, to come into being through me and be in me and change my beliefs in places like the unconscious where I can't get to them and change my expectations, my deep beliefs about relationships don't work, doesn't work. By the way, I think a lot of people are not engaged in relationship today because they believe with good reason that relationships do not work. Love doesn't work. I can if I can have a nice evening with somebody and you know whatever goes with that, I can have that and but love and relationships don't work for exactly what the reason we're talking about tonight. Because once people get into a conflict, they're going to defend their point of view and they're going to want to destroy my point of view. And I can't have that. That's not relationship. You get that, right? So so if so many people are so terrified and so wounded by relationship that they're opting out and they're going to walk alone. But those many of those beliefs are unconscious and they need to change. And so what we can do is I want to change that about myself. Whatever my negative beliefs are that restrict me, that keep me from receiving something that I really want, that I really need, being what I really want to be and who I and how I want to function in life. Whatever is restricting me, I need that changed. And so I'm going to do what I can do from the standpoint of my relationship with others, what I invite into my consciousness. My prayer is for that to be healed. I'm going to open to that and I'm going to act from that as much as I can. And then that will, the love that's in you will become amplified. It will become so magnetic. The universe will say, okay, we now you you're announcing through your love, through your commitment to change yourself, transform yourself. You're announcing that I'm ready for a partner. I'm ready to be different in relationship. I'm ready to experience something different, and you will. The universe does not deprive us of anything. There's no such thing as sacrifice in this world to in order to obtain love. That's something that was drummed into our heads very, very deeply. You have to sacrifice to obtain love. No, that's actually Jesus never said anything like that. Buddha never said anything like that. They both said we have to yes, we have to jettison false beliefs to become ourselves, but that part of us that we're becoming is love, and that is extremely magnetic, extremely powerful, and that is intended for us to experience that the love we seek.
Thank you, Tom. I'm sure that's going to be very encouraging for lots of people here in the circle. I'm just going to take up a few questions here from the chat. So, first of all, there was a request if you could please repeat the three commitments that we're making to one another when we engage in a relationship.
Yes, the three oftentimes unconscious commitments, promises we make uh, are the first one is, I will grow you with my love. That contrasts with, I'm going to try to get you to change for me through criticism. Criticism doesn't work. It just freezes the person, whatever the criticism may be of them. So the first is, I commit to growing you with my love. The second is, I will become the best version of myself. I commit to becoming the best version of myself for you, but even more for me and for our children and for our circle and for my function in the world. I commit to becoming the best version of myself. And the third is that together, our love will lead us back to our origin, our source, and we will remember who we really are. That was the intention and that was the purpose of our coming together.
Thank you, Tom. There are more questions in the chat. There's some people who just want to ask them by themselves. Um, I can just keep on. Or is there anyone else who just wants to ask a question directly into the round? Okay, so I'm picking up on a question here by Martin. Martin, do you want to step forward by yourself, or then I can read the question. It's about attachment styles. So you have like the avoidant and the anxious attachment style. Sometimes the deep patterns are just stronger than love, and it is wiser to acknowledge this and call it quits before too much suffering is caused. At least this is a possible conclusion stemming from this approach. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm the attachment style. What is that?
You
What
know, I think it's a reference to Balby, who coined these like different attachment styles that you sometimes have the more anxiously attached person who's more the pursuant and constantly needs to be reassured versus the avoidant who always needs their space and always, just
yes.
struggles to make commitments, and then you get into this dance of one pursuing the other, and it causes, needless to say, lots of suffering for both.
Yes. That I refer to those the styles as defenses, and they're very precise. They're very complex. And in another talk, we absolutely should go through that. I'm going to make booklets available on my website soon, so that you because I'm changing it, so you'll be able to read about the five defenses. But it's exactly what you just described, and what I think what Martin is talking about. The defenses are complex stress responses, the very thing that anxiety and attachment and neediness or control or shutting down or masochism where I give too much or and I'm riddled by guilt or schizoid when I leave my body and I'm never present for the other. All these defenses are very, very clear, but they're all stress responses. And the same works for if you're in a relationship where you really love this person and you can begin to work with your stress response, your defense, your what you're calling an attachment style, it will change you and will change the conditions. But what that person see in relationship, this is a very important part of relationship. And I always this is where I begin in counseling to people. You have to hold the possibility that in everybody in relationship is asking something of the other. They're asking the other to give them something or to grow in some way. Everyone, every important relationship in our lives is founded on this request. I'm asking you to give me something or be something for me. We have to understand what the question is, and we have to get to the root of that question, the deeper aspects of it. If we can address that question in its core, as close to the essence as possible, what both people say to the other, if both people can say, this is what I'm asking of you, I'm asking for you to be more rooted in your center, to be more courageous, more willing to be responsible for, your emotional life. And I want to support you in that. I want my love to support you, but there are things that only you can do, and I'm asking that for you. And the other one is asking, you know, I'm asking you for your commitment, your loyalty, your presence in my life. And we can get to the essence of those two requests in your soul for two people who really love each other. Both people in their soul want to say yes to that because we know I need to do that overcomes my defense. But let's say I'm a rigid person where I hold back, I close my heart. What my partner is really asking is, I need your heart. I need you to be more present. Or I'm schizoid. I'm daydreaming all the time. My partner is going to ask me to do the very thing that my soul wants me to do. That question comes from love. I'm asking you to do the very thing that I'm just embodying the question because you're now the partner in this person. And you're the person who loves this person, and you can articulate it because you have the need for that person to be transformed on the level of their defense, on their level of their fears. And they're asking you the same thing. And those requests, in the end is something we want to say yes. Both of us want to say yes. My heart wants to say yes to that, and my partner wants to say yes to that. So I think if we get to the question, what are we really asking of each other, and we can do it in a way that is not an accusation or a force or, you have to do this or I'm out of here. If we can get to the essence of that question, what really happens is the other person sees it and says yes. If they're committed to truth and they're committed to growth, they're going to say, yes, it's true. I do that and I have to change that. I hope that's helpful.
I think that leads nicely into the next question. Someone's saying here, I know a lot of people who are in a relationship that and they don't question themselves a lot. She says, is it then really love what they have? Because how can it then work? And they are in a long-term relationship. So in other words, how can relationships endure without deeper and conscious questioning?
Endure without people questioning.
So what she's saying, I don't know, Julie, if you want to speak up for yourself. So she says she knows a lot of people who are in relationships that don't question. They just keep on going and
Yes.
no questions are being asked. And
Right.
they just keep on going. And
Yes.
how, here we go, Julie.
No, no, it's very well explained. Thank you, Irene.
Okay. Okay. Well, relationship is something where two people define the depth that they're going to go to. And um, invariably, a superficial relationship is going to bring up deeper needs in one or the other. And they're going to want to talk about, um, you know, whatever's arising. Also, people are going to fit in relationship, especially long-term relationships. People meet crises. I mean, they're inevitable. People, there's health issues, there's financial issues, there's issues with children, there's questions of do we really want to live here? I mean, do we want to move? Whatever. There's some larger question that wants to wake us up from our slumber, our numbness. And so, you know, I think when one person starts to do that awakening and starts to say, something is nagging my consciousness of late, and I just need to talk to you about it. And you do it without, I want to explore it. I want to talk about it in such a way that I get a chance to explore it. And I want to hear from you. That pressure is going to be addressed. See, Carl Jung made it very clear. Consciousness is like a circle. Okay, it's a circle. And the unconscious starts to put pressure on the circle for us to expand the circle and welcome into consciousness whatever the unconscious wants to feed us with, to waken us to. And so it's going to bring up things that the unconscious, what is the soul, starts to tell us, you need to address this issue in your life. That starts to put pressure on the circle. That's if the circle stays too hard and it gets reinforced, that's experienced as anxiety. We don't know why we suddenly have fear. We have anxiety. I feel unstable. It's because something of the greater ocean wants to be let into the lake, the small pond is our consciousness. And so we want to do that. Open it up. Let more flow in. If if it doesn't open, it creates a crisis where it violates the inhibiting circle, the inhibiting energetic barrier. It punctures it, and then the floodgates open. Better to let it open and digestible portions, which is exactly what organic growth is about, letting information come in from the unconscious, from the soul, letting that guidance come in for us to be directed by it. Or we say, no, I'm not going to deal with that. And then it precipitates a crisis. The crisis will be external and internal. Could be a physical issue, a health issue, or could be something one loses his job or there's a loss of some kind. And then all of a sudden we got to really deal with the issues we're forced to. So if the person doesn't want to deal with the issues in peace, they'll be made to deal with the issues in crisis. But one of the people in the couple tends to feel it first. And then that person should say, I'd love to talk about this. Let's make a date. Thursday night, we have time. Let's just sit together. And I just want to ramble on about this for a while, these feelings I'm having, or these dreams I'm having, or this perception I'm having. And I just want to go on. I want to explore that. And that
So
usually moves the energy.
it's inevitable for you. So at one moment or another, it will happen for everyone.
Yes, because of the purpose of why we're here.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You will not be able to stay within your little circle. No one can.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome, Julia. Julie.
Someone is asking, what if your partner has a need that is unfulfillable or feels unfulfillable? Like, for instance, when your partner wants to feel truly loved, but it seems like the partner does not truly believe she or he can be loved and is worthy of love. I think this is where we come back to the five defenses, right?
Well, that's one way, but we can answer it in another way too. Here's the thing. The big illusion that we have when going into relationship is my partner's going to heal me. And that's for everybody, okay? Because we're carrying so much pain. Your partner can help you heal, absolutely. But being able to receive the love your partner gives you depends on whether you can connect to the part of you that is love. The more you can connect to the part of you that is love, the more you open to your partner's love. And so if you shut down, like for example, many people have been loved abundantly and they can't feel it. They can't feel it. And in our lives as individuals, we could be loved abundantly and we'll have periods where we have trouble receiving the love. Every one of us. And this is a time where we have to take stock of it and awaken to a separation that's happening within us that's getting us away from our heart, getting us away from the consciousness of the more organic self, the deeper self, making us drift into numbness where we can't feel anything or we feel very little. And we can't feel love. We can't feel the love from within. We can't feel the love from without. And suddenly we wake up and think, I've been asleep all this time, really asleep, and I don't know what's really happening. What has been happening all too often is that there's something we're afraid of and we're not processing it. There's something that's bothering us that we don't process it, or we're angry about something. We're afraid of our anger. I'm angry about something, or my memories of my relationship with my parents or my mother or my neighbor or whatever it was is really bothering me. But I'm very effective at numbing myself and not letting that come to consciousness. And so I don't feel anything. And then all of a sudden I can't feel love. I can't feel anything because the anger is like a wall like, over my heart, or the fear and the anger are walls over my heart that keep me from experiencing the love of the people who really do love me. And so I've got to reflect. I've got to start processing with myself, with helpers, with healers. What is really here? Someone with insight can always help us awaken to, okay, what's over your heart? What's blocking you from connecting with yourself in compassion? You are suffering, you don't even know it. Let's go to the suffering. Let's go to the pain. And I don't want you to start to say, okay, I can live without that, or I don't. I want you to just be present to it and let's go into the anger. Let's go into the sadness. Let's go into the fear and what is really there. And as you awaken to that, you start to feel more life, more vitality. You start to feel connected and you come into compassion for yourself. That it's been a very difficult year, or it's been a very difficult 5 years, or it's been a very difficult month, or yesterday was overwhelming. Whatever it is, And I haven't had time to process it. And I really do need to have that. And if somebody holds you in the space with compassion, you'll get there and you'll clear it. And very often you have a good cry because the energy needs to recalibrate. It needs to change. But when that happens, you'll feel very, very different. And you'll start to be able to go deeper because that will be an opening to go deeper into yourself to get to that more organic you, the light within you. So it's a very important state when we don't receive love from, we can't receive the love from people who truly love us. And we need to be awakened to that. Yes, Irene.
Yeah, there are more questions, but I just want to draw everyone's attention to the fact that we have two more talks organized on the 6th of May and on the 10th of June at the same time. The first one is going to be on true purpose. So, what is our true purpose and how do we connect to it? And the other one is on true health. And I'm just sending through again the link through which you can register for those and join us for those calls. I'm being mindful of the time, and people are writing different things into the chat. So, Tom, what do you feel or think? Should we take another call?
I can go a little longer. I have an appointment. I can go a little longer. I'll be able to be fine. So if we
Okay.
go a little longer, I'll be fine.
Someone asked, and I don't know if I can paraphrase the question correctly here, that sometimes having a little bit of ego can be a good thing. I think the way I understand that question is like the word ego is being used as a kind of shield, you know. So in society pulls me back nearly all human life. Anyhow, can ego in certain circumstances be beneficial? That's, I guess, how I would translate the question.
First of all, I really appreciate the question because I wrestle with it myself. And so much depends on what your nature is and what you came into the world to do. There are those who came into the world to dissolve the ego as much as possible, and their egos are more. Um, Everybody came in to dissolve the ego to some extent. Everybody wants to do that. Um, the first part of life, Jung said, Carl Jung, he said the first part of your life up until about 35, you're building your ego, you're building your sense of self, you're creating this persona, and for the rest of your life, you're deconstructing it. Um, so it depends on where you are in that bifurcation, pre-35, post-35. Um, if you're a young person, yes, it's important to have the ego because you need that. You need that. You need a sense of self, and it's the only thing you can at that point recognize as a sense of self. If you're post 35 or 45 and you're getting more into your mature years, the ego tends to dissolve and you tend to open to larger aspects of yourself. So to answer the question just briefly, the answer is yes. For sure, the ego is needed because it is the initial sense of self, who we are. As we mature later on, I don't mean to say that it's for everybody. As we mature, through our youth and post youth, the ego is the thing that it keeps us, slows us down from where we want to be. So, because it's not the real self, and what you want to have is the experience of who you really are, your true self. And so the ego gets in the way of that. So for a young person, I think what happens invariably, you'll be able to corroborate this just by remembering the things you do when you have an ego in your youth. You look back on it and you think, oh my God, how did I ever do that? That was so dumb. Or that was just selfish or stupid or whatever you say about it. But there's a lot of regrets. That should tell us a lot of itself. For people who have balance between a rich inner life and a flexible ego in their younger years, they tend to be very strong and mature and highly developed. And so we want to get there. You don't want to, the ego wants you to react selfishly. And the more you go into that, even in your youth, the more you find that is a world filled with regret. So I would say in the early going, that's your sense of self. Fine, it can be valuable to some extent, but it quickly wears away, and eventually we start to feel like I need something beyond my ego to really feel any sort of happiness. What we awaken to is a very simple truth, which is undeniable. There are many things there are factors that can participate in happiness, but there's only one that's essential, and that is love. Love is the only thing that's essential to happiness. And if you don't have love, you can't have happiness. Elon Musk recently said that he said you could have all the money in the world and not have happiness. Whoever said that, he said really knew what he was talking about. He's the richest man in the world. And so, it isn't wealth, it isn't status, it's love. Without love, there is no happiness. And so sooner or later, that confrontation is a confrontation with the ego. How could the ego have been so stupid? How could I, possessed by my ego, could ever think that I could be happy by being special in the eyes of my ego? I'm never going to be happy in the eyes of by making myself seem special or to me or to anyone else. I'm never going to be happy. It's only your function, your relationship with others, the love you give, the love you receive that gives you any happiness. So the ego, we all learn that, and the ego, that's very confronting for the ego. And that's the beginning of the end for the ego.
Fantastic. Okay, we're getting some thumbs up. Here, Debbie is over the moon for your answer. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Thank you, Debbie.
Okay. Are there any questions that want to be raised, or do we slowly call it? By the way, everyone, for those who are close to Belgium or in Belgium, I will be teaching the five defenses this Sunday in person. So that's an
Oh,
in-person workshop. We'll look
wonderful.
at the metal element and the five defenses. Um, so you're welcome to that. For anyone else, there's soon going to be like an EFT circle starting up. So you can find the information on my website. Are there any more questions that want to be asked? Just for now. So Julie is asking, is the ego kind of protection for the younger years until we're able to be aware of ourselves?
It's the beginning of self-awareness. It's the beginning of self-awareness. Absolutely. It's important. And we don't have to judge it one bit.
Okay.
It's always going to be there to some extent, but less and less.
Okay. Then I think Martin raised his hand. Did I see that correctly? And now someone's asking, does Tom give couples counseling sessions? Where is he based?
Yes, I do. I do a lot of couples counseling um, every day. So I'm in Amherst, Massachusetts. I do them by Zoom, and so you just write to my wife, Toby, TOBYMONTE at AOL.com if you'd like a session. I hope to be doing a program this fall on relationship. So there's that too. It's a possibility. Maybe Irene will join me and
And
we'll work
you'll do this
together.
online, Tom, right? This is going to be
Yes,
an
we'll do it.
online
I'll do it
course.
online. Yes, it'll be online.
Okay, I'm sure there's going to be lots of people here interested in that. So we'll keep everyone posted on that one.
Yes.
Okay, I think we can wrap it up for today. Tom, thank you so much.
Irene, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. And thank you all for coming. It's been a joy and a pleasure. I can feel the love, and I feel it for all of you. So thank you all so much.
So
Yeah.
unless okay, so
Thank you, Tom.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Irene.
Fausia. Thank you all. Okay, I hope I see you again soon. Okay, all the
In
best.
May, back in May,
May, yes.
everyone. Come and
Okay,
join us.
all
Lots
the
of
best.
love,
Bye bye.
everyone.
Bye
See
bye.
you soon. Good night, everyone. Sleep tight. Bye bye. Lots of love.